It must be the wind, she told herself, though the idea was clearly ridiculous. Who had ever heard of a gust of wind propelling a person to the top of a tree? But since Luna really didn't have any other explanation, it must be the wind seemed as good as any. She hadn't told her grandmother or her clerk. She didn't want to worry them. Also, it felt vaguely embarrassing, like perhaps there was something wrong with her. Besides, it was just the wind. And then, a month later, when Luna and her grandmother were gathering mushrooms in the forest, Luna had noticed yet again how tired her grandmother was, how thin and how frail, and how her breath rattled painfully in and out. "I'm worried about her," she said out loud when her grandmother was out of earshot. Luna felt her voice catching in her throat. "I am too," a nut-brown squirrel replied. He was sitting on the lowermost branch, peering down, a knowing expression on his pointy face. It took a full moment for Luna to realize that squirrels are not supposed to talk. It took another moment for her to realize that it wasn't the first time an animal had spoken to her. It had happened before. She was sure of it. She just couldn't remember when. And later, when she tried to explain to Clerk what had happened, she drew a blank. She couldn't recall the incident for the life of her. She knew something had happened. She just didn't know what. "This has happened before," said the voice in her head. "This has happened before. This has happened before." It was a pulsing certainty, this knowledge, as sure and steady as the gears of a clock. Luna followed the path as it curled around the first knoll, leaving the swamp behind. An ancient fig tree spread its branches over the path as if welcoming all who wandered by. A crow stood on the lowest branch. He was a fine fellow, feathers shining like oil. He looked Luna straight in the eye as though he was waiting for her. "This has happened before," she thought. "Hello," Luna said, fixing her gaze on the crow's bright eye. "Caw," the crow said, but Luna felt sure he meant hello. And all at once Luna remembered. The day before, she had retrieved an egg from the kitchen coop. There was only the one egg in all the nests, and she didn't have a basket, so she simply held it in her hand. Before she reached the house, she realized that the shell of the egg was wiggling, and that it was no longer smooth and warm and regular, but sharp and pointy and ticklish. Then it bit her. She let go of the egg with a cry. But it wasn't an egg at all. It was a crow, full-size, spiraling over her head and alighting on the nearest tree. "Caw," the crow had said, or that is what the crow should have said. But it didn't. "Luna," the crow called instead. And it didn't fly away. It perched on the lowest branch of Luna's treehouse and followed her wherever she went for the rest of the day. Luna was at a loss. "Caw," called the crow. "Luna, Luna, Luna." "Hush," Luna scolded. "I'm trying to think." The crow was black and shiny, as a crow ought to be, but when Luna squinted and looked at it aslant, she saw another color too. Blue, with a shimmer of silver at the edges. The extra colors vanished when she opened her eyes wide and looked straight on. "What are you?" Luna asked. "Caw," said the crow. "I'm the most excellent of crows," and the crow meant. "I see. Make sure my grandmother doesn't see you," Luna said. "Or my swamp monster," she added after considering it. "I think you'll upset them." "Caw," said the crow. "I agree," it meant. Luna shook her head. The crow's being did not make sense.